So, the prompt, the thing we want to talk about today, right? So, I'll start with a tiny story. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch late night TV, but I wouldn't understand it, right? Some of it was just I wasn't aware of the world and things like that. But there was this clear gap between me as a child and the rest of the world. And obviously, I overcame that over time. But as time has progressed, I feel like that gap either doesn't exist anymore or is blurred now because, well, I'm not sure why. That's what we're here to talk about. But it feels like that gap doesn't exist because everything is shared, everything is accessible, right? And I wonder two things. One, is it a good thing that everything between parents and children, adults and kids, is shared? Or is it a bad thing? What are my kids actually growing into if there's nothing to change or overcome or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
I think the gap is there, but the gap is definitely shrunk between what kids and adults do. I think one of the things, obviously, I think you can look at is social media, things like Instagram and TikTok, probably the two biggest ones. You can all see the same thing now. And I don't care about, what they say about parent restrictions anymore. Those are so easy. Those are easy get arounds for kids. Kids can probably figure out how to get around that better than you can.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
kid could probably put an age restriction on your phone, and you wouldn't figure out how to turn it off.
You're not
right.
wrong.
So I mean, what good is that anymore to me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in that sense, it's very blurred. I think you have to, like you, Casey, you have kids that are, what's your oldest?
3.
So I think they still, like you said in previous conversations, they look to you as this bigger than life person, right? This God type of person to them, right? And I still think that's true up to a certain age. Now, I think what we have to think about is at what age does that gap shrink? Where I could be a kid when I was, back in the 70s or 80s, I could be a kid up to 10, 12, 13, 14. I think that at a certain age, that gap is still there yet, big gap, but the gap shrinks when you get to a certain age now where it wasn't before. So let's say, at 10 years old now, a kid, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to pretend to know what that is.
Random number. Yeah.
10-year-old is all of a sudden watching Instagram, TikTok. They got a phone in front of them now where you're not probably giving a 3-year-old a phone.
Right. Yeah.
My kids, so interesting. I didn't give my oldest daughter a phone until she was in high school. I said, nope.
Good decision.
Then my rules became really relaxed real quick once she had it and all the other kids were like, I want one. And I did. I think 7th or 6th grade. Actually, I got my youngest daughter and my middle child a phone at the same time.
Wow.
Right? Because I was like, I just want it to be over with this constant hounding. So that's kind of on me.
Sure.
As a parent.
When did they get their phones? The two youngest?
You're asking the wrong person. My wife could probably tell you.
I only ask because when I got my first cell phone when I was in 5th grade.
Oh,
really?
Wow.
Yes. My sister
flip phone.
It was a flip phone. There was no internet.
But
it was more of like a connection to my parents in case anything, south happens.
Okay, but that was a flip phone. That wasn't.
Yes, that's
my
the point.
first kids' phones were
Internet.
Apple.
Yeah.
Wow. iPhones.
Yeah. My
right?
sister got hers in 3rd grade, even younger. Yeah, I think it was more like a, my brother has it sort of thing. I want it.
Okay.
So how old are you in 3rd grade? What is 3rd grade age again?
You start at 5.
Like at 8 or 9?
Must be 8, 9.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But it wasn't internet, right? So it was the only thing you could do was make a call or use minutes.
Okay.
Pretty much.
But I guess, to kind of bring it all back, you make good points, but that gap, okay, so we accept that at very young ages, the gap is there because, there's just so much, right?
Yeah.
But what you kind of alluded to is the gap is shrinking or has shrunk.
At a certain age.
At a certain
when they
age.
get up to a certain age. Not your 2-year-old and you are if you're too old sitting there watching the same TV show, you're forcing them to almost do it, right?
Yeah.
Or it's something their age, right?
Right.
Or age appropriate that you're kind of forced to watch as well.
Sure.
What is that age, I think, is what you really kind of got to think. Now, it's different for different people. I know that.
Sure.
But I think the gap's still wide between a certain, like, let's just call it 6 years old. I'm just throwing something out there, right? 6 years old. But then does that switch happen at 7 or 8 or 9? Like you said, your sister.
In all honesty, I think it's when they have access to like any type of internet device.
So you think that's a great equalizer?
So I think, like I got a phone in 5th grade, right? We had, dial up, but they were like barrier century. I couldn't just, we only had one computer, right? So if someone was on there, I couldn't go on it. Obviously, when I would go on there, there was, everyone could see. There was no like, anything hidden. But now you can get, let's say someone in 5th grade, when I got my phone, give them an internet device and they could pretty much do anything they want. They have access to any knowledge topic that they want, adult or not.
Right.
And they can get an answer in an instant. So, if they see their mom on Facebook, they're going to be like, oh, what's this? Yeah. Or if they have a friend who is on TikTok, right? They're going to be like, oh, I want to be on TikTok too. Right. So I think that's where it starts.
Interesting.
And then it sort of grows from there.
But my argument would be like, is that a good thing?